versus First Time DM. Back with another DM tip video. Today's topic was suggested by friend of the channel over on BlueSky, PJ Coffey. Go check them out, links in the description. There's a lot of languages in D&D, a ton. Every race, species has their own. The Player's Handbook 2024 brought in sign language as an option, which we'll talk about later. So how do you handle languages at the table and in your game? There's many ways to do it, so let's go talk. Let's start with something about the players. When the players are putting together a party and creating their characters, a smart party will put together characters with a wide range of languages known. This way they can instantly solve anything put in front of them by the DM later on. It's smart, it's not wrong, as long as that all of them know common and at least one other language, and they hit the wide range: Elvish, Dwarvish, Gnomish, Goblin, Infernal, etc. They'll be pretty good come higher levels, or even especially early game where languages really are a problem. So when your players do that, it's even harder to spring something in front of them dealing with a language, whether it's a puzzle, a door, a trap, overhearing something, because they might be covered right from the start. However, let's just talk about languages in general and just know that that's probably going to be the case. So that is why languages as a DM can be very tough. There are a couple different problems with languages. If you put a puzzle in front of a party, especially lower level, or lock something behind having a player have to know a language, especially if it's time sensitive. At early level especially, you can stop your game totally. You can put a roadblock right up in front of the game, just go home, you're done. Because if you put a puzzle in front of them that requires them to understand Goblin in order to continue on in the dungeon, but none of them do, and they're too early on to have comprehend languages or something like that, what are they going to do? Go out and find a Goblin and force them to read it to them? So now they have to go out, kidnap a Goblin, come back, hope the dungeon didn't respawn, which it should. So all you're doing is adding another layer of complexity and possibly ruining the session or ruining your campaign if you block something behind something like that to begin with. But so as a DM, you want to try to avoid doing that. Now, you can. It definitely makes things interesting and presents a puzzle for the party to solve. But you have to be realistic when doing something like that, is how easy it is for them to solve, and can the players solve it at the level they are at, with the gold they have, with the NPCs they know, with the spells they know. Can they solve it? If the answer is no, you probably don't want to use a language like that for that purpose. Because, like I said, you're just going to end the session, end the adventure, and you really don't want to do that. So you tend to stick with using languages like the door in front of you is in Elvish. You speak friend and enter kind of deal, knowing that 3 of the party members have Elvish as a language. So it just is something cool to add for flavor, which is great. That's definitely one way to use languages, and I do that. And we'll talk about my game here in a minute. But you can, lower levels especially, languages are cool to use for flavor. But you as a DM should probably look at your character sheets for your players and see which ones they know. Do one of them know something cool like Infernal that you can put in front of a party at a very early level, which would be great, because normally most languages at low levels are Goblin or Dwarvish or Elvish, something that they should know being the levels they're at. My game, it's a little bit tougher because my players are all veteran players, so they built a party covering a wide range. I give out magic items like candy. I give out certain feats in my world that help make languages easier, but it was just for my benefit, so I wouldn't have to use languages. Just makes my life easier as a DM. I remove part of it. We also started at a higher level. And, of course, there's a warlock and a wizard in my party, so comprehend languages as a ritual is there, which basically means the party can take 10 minutes, the wizard can cast comprehend languages, they can understand it, and continue on. So, for the most part, a language in my game is not going to stop the party. It just won't. And it hasn't from almost the beginning. It will slow them down. And if there is a time-sensitive aspect to my game, a ticking clock, which I hope to do a video on ticking clocks soon, because ticking clocks are awesome, having to cast comprehend languages as a ritual and wasting 10 minutes could mean the difference in the life or death of an NPC that they're trying to save. That a bad guy gets away because they had to stop and solve this. The BBEG gets his hand on that magic wand that they've been searching for to stop the end of the world, but they had to take an extra 10 minutes. So there can be times when using languages can present a problem for the party. So at higher levels, you definitely want to throw them in there if they have comprehend languages or other things similar to that at their disposal. Because again, just like with the lower levels, you don't want to block something behind a puzzle or an NPC. You don't want to put a plot point behind one of those, just like you wouldn't want to do it for a dice roll, because the dice will screw you. Absolutely will screw you. Now, speaking of dice, let's talk about today's sponsor, Only Crits. And if you're watching this before the middle of July 2025, they have a Kickstarter going on for their Fuck Me dice. Link in the description. So go ahead and click that link, head on over. They're about halfway to their goal of unlocking everything. They were funded in 15 minutes. They've been funded for 20 days. But there's still some cool things to unlock, including my favorite color, the Dragon Eye Purple. So click that link. For right now, let's kick you over to advertising, Rich, and talk about Only Crits. This video is brought to you by Only Crits. Do you love sharp-edged dice? What about dice with things inside of them like dots? What about metal dice, both solid and hollow? How about mystery bags of dice? I know I can't resist those mystery bags of dice at my friendly local game store. I just always have to buy one when I pop in. What about dice trays and dice cases? Well, Only Crits has you dice goblins and dice dragons taken care of. They have everything you can ever want when it comes to dice, and each one of us can always use more dice in our lives. So, click the link in the description to go to Only Crits, let them know the Laughing Tavern sent you, and enter the code MESOCRITS at checkout for 10% off your order. Thanks to Only Crits for sponsoring this video. Thank you, as always, Advertising Rich. So, there are a couple things you can do for languages. My buddy Bo, in his game, when we started at level 1, he said we all understood the language of our species without having to put it into our languages known. Basically, we got a free language from the start. So that was cool, but like that party, we're all very veteran players. So we pretty much covered the gambit of languages known, I believe, without looking at the other players' character sheets. However, that meant we all could take sign language as a language. Thank you, PHB 2024. What this means, and it's great that WotC has brought in sign language to be open so that people can create characters like themselves. So you can have a player that only speaks through sign language at your table. The character, that's awesome. It's great. Well done. However, it also allows for some player shenanigans, to where if each player in the party knows sign language, you no longer need airings of whisper to communicate across distances, especially when being stealthy. If everybody can just use sign language, that will up their ability to bypass certain things or to not be noticed, which is a great tactic for the players. So just be aware as DMs, Sign language brings this in as something else to be aware of from behind the screen that your players may do, and you got to roll with it. If they all pick sign language, be prepared for stealthy missions, or at least not being able to detect the players if they're communicating via sign language, which is awesome. So languages are great. Use them when you can. Put them in there. Change things up. Slow the party down by putting a language they don't know or don't have access to. And just nothing plot related. So that the party has to figure out the language. Even if it means spending money on an NPC or a scroll of comprehend languages. Now, it's much harder to figure this out if the party doesn't include a spellcaster with access to comprehend languages, especially as a ritual. If they have to spend a spell slot, that's fine. It's the ritual that gets you, because then, especially at higher levels, languages are irrelevant at that point in the game. So just be aware. Use them though, especially for flavor, especially at the lower levels. Languages are one of those things that as a dungeon master can help set the scene. Are they in Dwarven ruins? Well, there should be Dwarven script. There should be Dwarven runes. There should be everything about that location should be in Dwarvish. So talk to your players about that. Describe the letters, the writing they see. And if none of them speak Dwarvish, which could happen, it could present something else for the party. You know, if they're in hell, if they're in a different plane, use a language from there that the party doesn't understand people talking. Or when they first walk into the temple or a tavern, the bartender speaks to them in Infernal because they assume they speak Infernal. And if none of the party does, then they got to have that role-play moment of trying to figure out what language they do speak. What I like to do is some of my NPCs don't speak Common. So it really relies on the other language, and only one player at the table will understand. So it adds that added complexity of having to describe to the other players what was just said. You can hand wave a lot of it, of course, if they're standing there. But you can run into options like that, or letters. Letters are a great thing to use, especially in different languages, especially in the little-known languages, say Abyssal or Infernal, Celestial. You know, your common languages, your Elvish, your Draconic, your Gnomish, Dwarvish, those are going to be known by almost everybody. But a secret missive written in Abyssal could be something that the party comes across, and now they've got to get it, they got to figure out how to read it to figure out what the plans are for the BBEG, for example. So use languages. Just be smart about it. Make sure your players have a way to figure it out. Because if they don't, they will never go back to that plot hook. If it was a letter in a bandit's pocket, but it was written in Infernal, they're going to forget about it by the time they're able to afford a reading of it, or by the time somebody learns comprehend languages, they're going to forget to get this letter when they were at level 2, right? So be smart about it. Make sure they can solve it then, or at least soon before they forget about it. And don't ever block anything behind a puzzle or an NPC, especially if it's a dice roll or having to decode a language. So, how do you use languages? Do you agree? Do you use them a lot? Do you just hand wave it all? Let us know in the comments. As always, give us a thumbs up, subscribe, comment down below. We're shooting for 500 subscribers by the end of July. Help me get there for my 50th birthday. That would be amazing. I would love to be at 500 subscribers by the end of July. It gives us a month from today. So share the link. Share it with your DM friends. If you're watching this, you like D&D. If this showed up on your subscribe wall, if this showed up, send it out. Share. It's the best way to help the content creators like myself. So, as always, be kind to each other. Love each other. And just accept each other. That's all you got to do, folks. Have a nice day.